following is a paid advertisement program provided by Premier Investments and Wealth Management. An airing of the program is not to be considered an endorsement or recommendation. The opinions expressed are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily of this station or iHeartMedia. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. The information in the following program should not be construed as an offer to sell and is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified tax advisor or legal counsel.
Hello there. Welcome back to another edition of the Premier Investments and Wealth Management Financial Program. My name is Doug Wagner. I've got two gentlemen here with me, and I'll introduce them in a second. But before then, I want you to go to premieriwm.com. Whether you're on a phone, whether you're on a tablet, desktop, laptop, doesn't matter. premieriwm.com. Should be in the upper right-hand corner of the page. Get started. Click on those words. Get started. You'll answer a couple of questions. You will get what's called the one-page Premier Vision document. It's a really simplified but not too simple way of putting your financial future in focus. We'll explain that here in a second. The whole point is that it's one page, and you will get goals, and you will get action items, and it's very graphically friendly. premieriwm.com. It's also called the one-page My Financial Confidence Score document as well. Go to premieriwm.com, click Get Started, get that. They will schedule for you a free, no cost, no obligation consultation to sit down with you. You don't need to bring a checkbook. You don't even need to bring any paperwork, nothing. They just want to get to know you, find out what your goals and aspirations are so they can match them up with the financial future that you're looking for. The phone number to call if you find it interesting already and just want to make the appointment, 800-383-6590. You can also make that appointment at premieriwm.com. Elias Randall's Vice President and Wealth Advisor at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. Is a new sheriff in town. Sheriff Elias, good to see you.
Doug, good to see you. Happy to be here.
Awesome.
Do I get to make any new rules since I'm the new sheriff in town?
I don't know.
Do I get any authority with that?
It's going to be dependent. It's going to be dependent on the big kahuna, Roger Abel, sitting right across from me.
Who knew?
President and Wealth Advisor, Premier Investments and Wealth Management. Over 21 years of experience in the investment industry. He is an accredited investment fiduciary as well. Roger, how are you?
I'm doing well.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Glad to hear.
Settled in. I'm getting ready for the next big holiday coming up.
Yeah?
You know?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Just around the corner. Mm-hmm. Seems like this year went really, really fast, as to most years. And
you know what? You put together financial plans for individuals and for couples, for families. They are individual. I mean, this is not cookie cutter stuff. This is something where it's like a fingerprint. It's like DNA. You do this based on all of the stuff that they come to you with. Hopes, dreams, aspirations. Roger, sometimes they come to you with mistakes too. Come to you with a broken financial plan. Talk to me a little bit about how difficult it can be to fix those broken financial plans. What do you do to start off, and how do you go about it?
well, I think the first thing to kind of let people recognize is what happened in the past is over. You can't change it. So we kind of make the best of it going forward, right? If you made a financial mistake 3 years ago, well, there's nothing you can do about it today.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, is what it is. Like, let's just move on forward. If you made you picked some stock and it didn't work out, well, is what it is. Make the best of it. So the first thing to do is just really get a snapshot of where are you today? Like, okay, how do we fix it? One, let's get an accurate reflection of where we are today. Mm-hmm. Where do we want to go in the future? That's the first two things you have to do.
Yeah.
Is figure out what the goals are and where we stand. If you don't know where you stand, it's hard to fix it. We've had multiple situations where people have come in here thinking that they have a broken financial plan, or, hey, we're just really behind. That's what a broken financial plan is, right?
Okay.
Don't feel like you're on track. Mm-hmm. They walk out of here, they're like, man, not so bad.
Yeah.
You know, some small tweaks, little changes here and there add up to really great results, especially if you have a number of years to do it. It's a lot harder to fix somebody's financial future 90 days before it needs to be done.
Right. It makes
right?
sense.
Hey, if you're sick, let's say it's not even a good analogy. I mean, if you
An
have a
early
health,
diagnosis is always better.
you got it. There you go. The earlier you diagnose it, the more time you have to fix the problem. Diagnose it 90 days
More options
before.
you have.
Options. That's a good analogy. I was at a fundraiser with quite a few doctors from a local hospital. In fact, I was with the CEO of the hospital, and they were talking about. I asked them. I said, "What do you think needs to happen to like reform the healthcare system?" And they're just giving me opinions, and one of them was like, "Hey, maybe we focus more on early treatment and optimal outcomes because." When somebody's 80, how good's the surgery really? What's the outcome of that surgery really going to be? It's like if you were a smoker your whole life and you needed to have a surgery, the longer you wait, the more dangerous it becomes. And it'll get to a point where they won't be able to medically operate on you. I know an individual who had hammer toes, put it off forever, forever and ever, never got it fixed.
What?
Well, smoker, guess what?
Yeah.
I'll do surgery now. Gonna have to live with it forever.
Oh, wow.
So just those things, early diagnosis makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does. It's Roger Abel talking as well with Elias Randall here in the Premier Investments and Wealth Management Program. How often there are a number of people, Elias, that they don't have a financial plan, and it's not because they don't have the desire. They're afraid that they've already made these mistakes, or they're afraid of how somebody's going to look upon them because they don't have a financial plan, and they don't want that judgment judging on them.
The judgment or judging.
Talk to me about that. I mean, you've had to run into people like that. How do you approach them? How do you address this with them?
So, and I think that's human nature, where if you feel you're unprepared or you could have done a better job, or you feel like you've done a bad job preparing and saving for retirement, it's human nature. None of us want our nose rubbed and our mistakes, right? But I don't know that that's going to help with the solution. And especially, okay, you think about if someone was bringing one of these proverbial broken plans to share with us at Premier. Well, we're strangers the first time we meet, right? So who really is that interested in sharing some kind of confidential information that's private, and maybe you don't feel that great about it. And so we do run into that where people feel like they have not done a good job, so they're almost a little bit worried about doing it. It's like you hear all the time, people don't want to go to the doctor. Like, what's one of the big reasons people don't like to go?
Because they don't want to get told they're sick.
Right. They don't
That's
want to
why
be
I don't
told.
go.
Right. They don't want to be told the truth. Right.
Yeah.
Like just recently, I actually came down with strep throat, which is absolutely miserable to go through. Did I go to the doctor the first day I had it? No, because in my mind, I'm going to rest. It's probably just a virus. I'll just rest today. I'll wake up tomorrow and I will be fine. Well, woke up the second day and felt a little bit better. So did I go to the doctor? No. Woke up the third day, felt absolutely atrocious. So now I'm going.
Yeah.
Right? I could have went 2 days earlier.
Right.
So was it I didn't want to take the time? I didn't think it was necessary. The reasons are not that relevant, but the more prudent thing to do would have been to just seek out a professional and figure out what's going on with me and what can I do about it.
And this also offers up, because you're like, okay, now I know what my personal tendency is. But the question is, are you going to reform what you're going to do in the next time when you get sick initially? Or you're going to go like, I'm going to the doctor now.
I plan to. We'll see if it actually happens.
Well, you won't, because you didn't get to the point where you felt bad enough that you needed help. Now, we're kind of talking about people procrastinating, like getting a plan put together, because that's step one. It's like you have to get one. But there's also people who have done plans and now they're off track, right? Like, oh yeah, well, I thought I was going to spend $6,000 a month for retirement, but I'm spending $8,000.
Okay.
Right? That's how you have a broken plan too.
Sure.
And I think that's when you have to sit down and have a reflection of, okay, one, how did we get here? Was it that our assumptions weren't correct in how much we were going to spend, or are we overspending? And we call that figuring out what your relationship with money is. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a very specific relationship with money. Some people are savers, some people are spenders, everything in between. And psychologically, success in retirement and money has more to do with your behavior than how you invest the money and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
So what's your relationship with money? What went wrong? Once we diagnose that for someone who's kind of off track, then we can go about how are we going to fix it. And how are we going to fix it isn't always just better investments. It's, okay, we understand that you have this tendency to overspend.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here's ways we can prevent you from overspending. And the number one thing that comes to light, and we're not seeing as much of it because they're starting to wind down, but when a person gets offered a lump sum pension, most people see the lump sum pension as, hey, great, I take this lump sum of money, I got all this money. Mm-hmm. They forgot that money is going to drive income, right? That's what money does. It drives income. Mm-hmm. Whether you take the pension monthly payout or whether you take the lump sum, invest it yourself, you're getting income from it. I'm going to give you two examples. We have a spendthrift person who's going to spend lots of money. They typically can't keep a budget. They carry credit card balance all the time. Like, that's a spendthrift.
Right.
And then we have the person who's never had a credit card debt, super responsible with money. One person should just take the monthly pension payout because they don't run the risk of ever running out of income.
Right.
That's the person who understands a relationship with money and says, hey, I'm a spender. If it's there, I'm going to go buy a $60,000 car because it's there.
Yeah.
You have to understand what your personal relationship is because that's going to drive your outcome more than anything.
It's funny because I know somebody who's that retired educator, and that's one of the things is like, doesn't need one. Just like, hey, let's get a cashier's check for $50,000 so I can go buy this vehicle that I really don't need. And it's not warranted, but that's the problem. Now that $50,000 is going to be inaccessible for the remainder of their lifetime. It's spent. And that's one of the things, by the way, if you had Soren Kierkegaard and part of your bingo card today, Molly has fulfilled that because the Kierkegaard quote, life must be lived forward. It can only be understood backward. So thank you, Molly.
I thought that was I assumed that was a Doug Wagner quote. That was pretty deep and thoughtful. I thought Doug must have came up with that himself.
No. That's some heavy thinking right there. That's some heavy lifting right there. You know what? Here's the thing. At Premier Investments in Wealth Management, they understand that putting together a financial plan can be heavy lifting for you. Maybe you've put it off. Maybe you think that your financial plan is broken, or maybe you don't have one and you're kind of scared to say, I need to do this. You know what? They're going to make it easy peasy lemon squeezy. Come on in. You can go to premieriwm.com. That's the website, premieriwm.com. Click Get Started, and from there you can answer some questions, and they will schedule an appointment for you to come in and review with them a one-page Premier Vision document. It's like a My Financial Confidence Score. How confident are you in that you're going to be able to retire on time when you want, how you want to? That's what they're there to help you, okay? If you're sick, you go to a doctor. If you got legal issues, you go to a lawyer. If you got spiritual issues, you go to your priest, pastor, imam, rabbi, wherever. If you've got money issues, come see my friends at Premier Investments in Wealth Management, premieriwm.com. The phone number, 800-383-6590, and premieriwm.com. Going to wrap up at the end of the show. We're going to talk a little bit more about that one-page Premier Vision document, Roger. But Elias, I want to go over to you. The third step, act into the future. Can you explain what exactly that means?
I think what we're getting at is now that we know where we stand, we've kind of understand our relationship with money. Now, execution of the plan is very important. So that's a few things. It's having an investment strategy and then sticking with that investment strategy through the ups and downs of the market, or the good and bad, however you'd like to look at it. It's also acting on the planned spending and doing the things you were planning on doing. So if you were planning on, if we've done a great job and we know that you can spend X and you want to travel, you want to update a vehicle, you want to take your family on a nice vacation, whatever it is, execute those lifestyle action items too. And I think it's easy for people once you're retired, and I think almost would say almost every retired family, there's a little bit of hesitation on spending money in retirement, right? And it doesn't matter how great of a job they've done. They can have be very wealthy people, but there's just something psychological when you don't have your income from your paycheck, your job anymore, that spending this money that you've worked hard to save, it's scary for people. So I think that's kind of just acting on those things and understanding and knowing we've done the work to put ourselves in this position. We know everything's going to work out, and just kind of and live to the plan, and then live up to all those, your go-go years and all the things you want to do. Right. Act on those things.
You have people who, like you said, don't end up spending that money, and that can be kind of difficult because, when you do that, sometimes you're not living life to the fullest. And we talked about this in another show recently, how you can either do it now or try to do it later when your body's not prepared for that. People, if they do come from a broken financial plan, they're maybe, like you said, just not ready to spend that money, but that can be debilitating too.
Not being able to spend the money?
No, not spending the money and just sitting there and hoarding it.
You're missing out. Mm-hmm. We only go around so many times, right? And you're kind of missing out. And I think a good exercise that anybody who's close to retirement, or let's just say 10 years, 15 years away, sit down with your significant other and just ask yourself this question. Let's walk ourselves through the first year of retirement. What's it look like?
Yeah.
Like, spend some time, not like vacation planning, which is like, oh yeah, we got online, went to Expedia, booked the trip, we're good. Like, hey, what does the first year realistically look like? And not all the roses. Like, okay, if you're from a northern climate, don't assume you're going to golf every day.
Right.
Unless you have a simulator inside your house. Like, that's not realistic. And I only bring that up because I have an individual I know retired early because I'm going to golf every day. Yeah, they did that till November.
Yeah.
And now they went back to work and got a part-time job because they ran out of stuff to do.
Yeah.
That wasn't like an accurate reflection of what retirement was going to be. It was, oh, this is what sounds really great, but not what it's going to be. So let's do a story. Let's say you're from a northern climate. Great. We plan to go to X the first year for 4 weeks. Well, have you ever been to X before? Do you think maybe you should go to X before you plan on going to X for 4 weeks? Test some of this stuff out. Seriously.
And that's something that we've talked about before too, is this idea that test your retirement. And how do you go about doing something like that?
You should totally test your retirement.
How do you go about doing this? It's one thing to play, like a tabletop game, but how do you just say, okay, I've got a 2-week vacation. We're now going to do the
go there and live there.
Okay.
Go live there. Go get a VRBO for 2 weeks and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. 2 weeks. It's the only place we're going on vacation until we actually really figure out if this is where we're going to be.
Right.
My wife and I do this all the time. When we go on vacation, it's like, okay, it's
a test drive.
It's a test drive. But when you approach it from that lens versus just I'm going on vacation, because vacation's just all fun.
Yeah.
When you approach it from the lens, hey, do I see myself at this point, at some point for a duration of time? You're like, yeah, no. We can mark that one off the box. We went to Miami last year. Miami sounds awesome. Yeah, it was fun to visit.
Yeah.
I can't live there it's too fast. Too much traffic. I did find one little neighborhood, though, that I could totally dig and be there. It was 15 or 20 little restaurants in a square. It was kind of off the beaten path on the water. I'm like, okay, I could dig this 4-block area.
Yeah.
But I don't need the rest of it. But that's how you test drive. You just, hey, 2 weeks. I'm living here.
And it's
What's
so
it
funny
like?
because you came back and I remember you said, I think I know where I'm going to live when I retire. And I was surprised. I was surprised with where you said you thought you could live in retirement. I was like, California?
California, no part in my life would I ever assume California could be the go-to spot. But I've been to San Diego 4 times in the last 2 years. I've been to Palm Springs, right? Palm Springs. Yep.
Yeah.
You like it there?
I really like it there. I really like San Diego. My wife really enjoys Palm Springs, not because you'll think it's ironic why she likes Palm Springs, because it's like Scottsdale weather with no traffic. Oh. There's no traffic. She goes, the other reason she likes it.
That sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
Well, she made the comment. She goes, well, it's kind of like a lot of older people. And she goes, and when I come here, I'm going to be older.
Yeah.
I said, you're right. Like,
right
the
in.
bartender or waiter, he's like 50 years old. It's not like an 18-year-old. He's like 50. My wife's like, it's kind of cool because it's older people, and I'm going to be older when we go here.
I fit in better.
That's great.
But every time, that's a great example. We've been to Florida. We went to Florida 3 times this year. We're 15 years away from doing anything,
Right.
but we're being proactive. I don't want to do it 9 months before I retire, figure out where I'm going to live on a part-time basis. I'm in a northern climate. I'm not going to be cold. Florida, every time we go, we're like, walk by, like, yeah, I don't think so. Every time we're in California, seems pretty great. Now we have other places that we're going to explore.
Right.
Because I don't know if I want to afford.
California.
There you go. Like,
Yeah.
there's a negative to it.
Yeah.
But to that point, there's planning that can be done, right? If your intention is you love California and that's where you want to go in retirement, you should be doing all Roth contributions. Why would you want any taxable income?
Right.
Because that's the biggest knock on California's taxes, right? No one ever complains about the weather. They're not complaining about the weather.
No.
It's the greatest weather ever. But taxes, well, how do you do it? You plan away for it. Plan it away. You start doing Roth contributions to everything.
Premier Investments and Wealth Management Financial Program. We're going to wrap up here in just a few minutes. Roger Abel and Elias Randall with you. Go to premieriwm.com. Check out the website. Lots of downloadable information. You actually can even make an appointment right there on that website. And the appointments are no obligation, no cost. And what I'd encourage you to do, though, is click Get Started once you get to premieriwm.com. Answer the few questions, and they will provide for you a one-page My Financial Confidence Score, a Premier Vision document, they call it, that helps you understand, am I ready for retirement? How are we going to get to this point where I can fix my broken financial plan? But most importantly, implementing the plan, because you can have all the greatest plans in the world, but if you don't pull the trigger, and that's really what it comes down to, Elias, is that idea that you've got this one-page Premier Vision document. Don't just sit and hold on to it, because you hold on to it and nothing happens over the entire thing.
Yeah, and really it's that part of your life is you worked really hard to get there. So there should be an aspect of enjoying that, spending your money, but within reason and according to your financial planning. And I want to kind of tack on to what Roger was talking about. I really like the idea of doing some practicing of retiring and going to do different things. Because when you were sharing that story, I was actually sitting here thinking, I personally, I've always, I don't know, and I don't even know why I've ever thought this, but I've always thought, I think it'd be cool in retirement to like get a truck and what is it called, the fifth wheel camper?
Yeah.
And like travel around to the national parks. And then when you were saying that, I was thinking, one, I've never owned a camper, and I've never been someone that went camping. So why is that something I think about?
Yeah. So if you
but it would be much better to maybe rent something and go try it for 2 or 3 weeks.
Well,
I was
or
just
before
thinking,
you,
that's a really good idea, because if I commit to that and then 30 days later I'm sick of it, now I have all this stuff and I don't even want to use it anymore.
I've had it happen. I actually have a client who did that, sold everything, bought a diesel truck, single gal diesel truck, travel trailer. And what people don't realize, that sounds great in theory, but most of these parks won't let you park for 3 months. Got to like move every 30 days.
Yeah. And you don't want to live in a Walmart parking lot.
And she did it for a year. Guess what?
Yeah.
No, she bought a residence. Now she goes, it was fun. But yeah, you should, and you could test drive that. You actually could probably rent something for the summer. Be like, hey, we're going to live out of this for the summer and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Like, probably not with kids, like, But hey,
But down the road, I could do something.
You could do it.
Once my kids are grown up, I could do something.
go try to do it for 4 weeks. Tell me how it works out.
Yeah, and I may not even like it for 4 weeks.
It does, but it doesn't mean you couldn't have one. You could have one and use it sparingly. It could be part of your arsenal, but maybe it's just not the full-time thing.
Might not be the
How many
full-on
cruises have you
lifestyle.
ever been on,
I have never been on a cruise.
Roger?
2.
Okay, I've been on 4, and on 3 of the 4, Laura and I ran into couples who have retired onto cruise ships.
I've heard about that, but
Are they
tell me a little
enjoying
bit
it?
about what they're doing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's fabulous. They enjoy it. So your
Are
question.
they
What's that?
So tell me a little bit about that, because I've heard of this.
Yeah.
And there are people that they're living on cruise ships
Right.
basically full time. Right?
Yeah, they live on cruise ships. They go from one cruise to the next. Like, say, for example, they're in Miami or Fort Lauderdale. You go there, and then you go with the cruise, and you come back, and then they will go to another destination, and then they will take a cruise from there, and they will do different cruise ships, different lines,
Of
different.
the people you've met, what's the longest anyone you've spoken with has been doing that?
Oh, they're like 2 years in, and
2 years and
they
still
took
going.
they took about a month and a half off just to have some dry land and dry dock and see family, stuff like that. But that's like the ultimate in, like, I am getting rid of everything. And I said, what was the biggest worry that you had? They said it was about the medical, because they were concerned about it, but they were young enough where they didn't have infirmity issues and they weren't getting along. So, but then at some point you're gonna have to figure, okay, we're gonna have to dial it back a little bit.
Well, no, good point. So that goes back to planning. Like that's the go-go, right?
Yeah.
They got to plan for the slow-go phase of life. Where are we now going to live since we've been on a cruise ship? What's the plan when we no longer have the ability to live on a cruise ship?
Yeah.
Because there will be a time when that happens.
No, you're right about that.
That sounds kind of fun too.
But
But again, it's something I've never done, so I have no idea if
Yeah,
I actually
exactly.
like it.
It's
for
all just
any
test
amount of
driving.
time.
That,
Yeah.
dude, that's what you should do.
That's a good
If you say you're gonna retire and golf every day, well, okay, for 2 weeks go golf every day.
Yeah.
Tell me how it works. Tell me, do you need a break?
And see how your
That I
body
know.
stands
That I
on
know
Yeah.
I
that
could
one.
do.
You could do.
That I know I could do. Yes, I could golf every day. Not 18 holes, but I could go out and play like
9. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
but
could go
part of
out
your
and play 9.
golfing's the 19th hole.
Yeah.
the 19.
Well, it's funny because my former father-in-law, they retired on multiple golf courses, and that was one of the nice things about it, is that early in the morning before anybody else was up, or late in the afternoon, late in the early evening, he'd just walk out and he would go play. He'd drive with his golf cart and just go play a few holes, and he just had the biggest fun doing that. Speaking of test drive, I want you to test drive my friends from Premier Investments and Wealth Management. At premieriwm.com, you can click Get Started to answer some questions. They will provide for you the one-page Premier Vision document. That's your way of seeing, am I ready for retirement, or what does retirement even look like? premieriwm.com, or you can make the phone call 800-383-6590. You can even go to the website, premieriwm.com, make an appointment with either Roger Abel or with Elias Randall or with one of the fabulous professionals they have in the office. Do it online. You can come to them. They'll come to you, whatever works, all right? In the meantime, for Roger, for Elias, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching the Premier Investments and Wealth Management Financial Program. Thanks to Molly for producing. We'll see you next week.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Premier Investments and Wealth Management and LPL Financial do not provide tax advice. Please consult your tax professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. There's no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. All performance referenced is historical and is not a guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal.